Hey everyone, this is Josh up in Duluth, Minnesota. I had a lot of questions about my worm composting station here. This is not related to the RGGS, but I got permission to do this, so I'm going to do this quick. I'm doing one video and one video only. Questions were how I built it, how I maintain it. I got 4 containers active right now. Like you can see, I got 8 total here, but the top 2 are active containers, the bottom 2 are not. I started off with African night crawlers as eggs. I had them ordered in off the internet, off a website. You know, everyone asks me, where do you find these? Look on the web. Larry on the site here, he's got them. There is a endless supply of people that supply these. So every style of worm that you want. So anyways, back to this. Containers are active. How I built it. Now, real simple. I'll pull this one out. Where I kind of sit here and work. You see across the top? I used, I think it was about a 3/16 bit. Now the biggest thing is lots of holes. Don't be afraid to put holes in there. It doesn't matter. I try to keep them kind of in sync just for cosmetic looks. Don't get too close to the edge, because if the worms do start to crawl, they're going to come up to this edge side. They're not going to make it out over here. So stay away from the edges when you're putting your holes in here. Now again, you probably, and I might do this down the line, down the center, put bigger holes so you get more airflow yet. The big thing on that one is to watch your environment, to see how moist it is. If it's getting too moist and too damp and it's not drying up, you might want bigger holes, more airflow. Now, with more airflow, what I did is along the sides, I used a small drill bit, about an 1/8 inch. You can see against my finger, it's pretty small. I did that all the way around it. There's actually a second layer. When I first did these, I didn't do them quite right. So there's actually 2 rows. Oh, this one actually, this is my newer one, so I didn't do that. Some of my older ones I did 2 steps. I did some down below and some up above. But all you need is just that. But it adds more air. So go small. If you do decide to put them on the sides, very, very small. It just adds more air. Okay, so now everyone asks about tower systems. I do not like the tower systems. I think they're way too much maintenance and way too many problems. I went with the lower container is purely a reservoir, the upper container is where the worms live, and that's it. There is no other containers. So inside this main container, the bottom side, now this has bigger holes. The bottom, these are 5/16 is what I did. Again, it doesn't matter the size that you use. The reason I did this size is because I wanted a big enough hole that was allowing good air in, and I also wanted the fact of just water drainage, everything. More air is better. I've had a ton of questions about, do your worms get out? Do they get down into the lower containers? I have never, out of the thousands and thousands of worms that I have, I've never seen a single worm in my lower container. Not one. They stay in their container because all the food is in there. They're not going to crawl down unless by chance you have a bad environment. If you have a bad environment, those little buggers are going to try to escape. That's the bottom line. I mean, you ain't going to sit in a house that smells like rotten eggs. So make the environment good and they will stay in there. So there's your bottom container. Or excuse me, I should say bottom. There's your base of the main container. Bottom container. Why should I should stick to this first. Lid. I put this gasket all the way around the lid here. Now all this is you go to the Menards store. You can find at most any hardware store. It's basically for windows, for doors, for anything. It comes in a big roll. It's not real expensive. I think it's $3 or $4. I am trying to see if I have one sitting around here. I had a container sitting around here. I don't know what I did with it, but it's not expensive stuff. It comes off in a roll. You can kind of, it's not super thick. What it is, it's hollow. So when I put the lid, it's not taking up a whole lot of room. It's squishing down pretty easily. I just did that just for a little extra security in case the worms decide to crawl up. That's going to make a little bit tighter seal. What it'll do is it'll hit the edge of the rim here. And you got to kind of coordinate with your rim. So you can see when I have the lid straight down, that's going to land in there, so it's going to make it that much harder for those worms to get out. Whether it's necessary, I don't know, but I've never had a problem. Now, lower container. You can see the holes all around. Those are 1/2 inch holes. That's the biggest drill bit I could put in my drill. So I used 1/2 inch. I just went all the way around. All this is a reservoir. That's it. Nothing else. There's no worms in here. There is no worm compost tea in here. Every once in a great while I get a smidgen of water, and I mean it's not even barely enough to fill the palm of my hand. If you are keeping your environment correct, you will not have water. So this is mainly for airflow, and I'm actually considering increasing the size. I'm going to use a hole saw, I think, and I'm going to probably go to 1-inch holes is what I really think I'm going to do, just to get that much more airflow in here. But so far, I've never had a problem. 1/2 inch holes all the way around. Spigots. I've had a lot of questions about these spigots. Now, let's see if I can get a up close and personal. There you go. That's a steel 90 with a couple brackets on it. I went up to Menards, I told the guy what I'm doing, and he kind of helped me out. The outside, the spigot there. Again, I gotta admit, this is absolutely useless. If you are building one of those worm towers where you're putting in solid veggies, I use pureed veggies and I maintain my moisture levels, and I'm very careful with this because it's indoors. If you're outdoors and you know you're going to have a lot of moisture, this is definitely a great feature. For indoor composting, all my stations here that I have them on, don't waste your money. You don't need it. For the little bit of moisture you get, all you really do is get rid of it. You're not going to get worm compost tea out of this. You make worm compost tea out of the compost, so do not waste your money on this. Well, that's really basically building it. So, lid, container for worms, holes all the way around it, reservoir. I should show that too. Size of containers, 14-gallon, Rubbermaid, roughneck. I got these at Menards on sale. They were the Christmas ones. So they're greenish, which I like the green ones. I don't like the ones they have now, they're gray. Same thing, it's just they're gray. Got them on sale, I think, for $6 a piece. To build this whole thing with the spigot, I think cost me $20. So, you look at all the Worm Factory ones, and then see what I have here. If you bought a Worm Factory, one Worm Factory, I built this entire tower, 6 foot tall. Mind you, not the shelf, but all the containers, spigots, the whole 9 yards, for cheaper than you can buy one Worm Factory. So if you want to do your own setup, you really can. It doesn't matter what containers you use. I do very much recommend don't go big containers. Don't go 20-gallon or big containers. Number one is they get heavy. Number two, you have to have a bigger shelf system to store them, especially if you're doing indoors. You can do this outdoors too. Put this in your garage, just set up a shelf. I did my indoors because I want to do it all year round. So, active containers. Now, bear with me a sec. This is a little bit heavier. Okay, this is one of our good containers here. I know these guys have been in pretty good shape. So you can see around, there's my rim. There's not even signs the worms are crawling up here. Nothing. Now they say to look on the sides of your container and you'll see markings from them crawling up the sides. Okay, here I got some moisture. The moisture content's a little high. Not too bad, but it's evaporating. So, I put newspaper on the top. This helps to absorb the moisture in the dirt, and it also keeps the light, plus keeps the moisture down inside where I want it to be. You're coming downstairs, you don't want turning lights on to scare your worms all the time. So, let's see what we got here. Alright. Now I just changed this over. There's one sitting on top right now. Not a whole lot on top. I just redid all the soil. I added a whole bunch of peat moss and a bunch of new food. Everything you see that's kind of really heaped up on the side here, that's actually a lot of newspaper that was too wet. What I did is I took it to the corner and I buried it, and I'm adding new newspaper. This is new newspaper here, which helped absorb the moisture. You want to check your moisture levels, get some of your soil, kind of be careful of just no worms in here. Okay, I don't see no worms. Okay, squeeze your soil, and what you're looking for, you don't want to see a whole lot of moisture come out of it. Okay, so there's probably 6-7 drops. That's not bad. That's pretty decent. You can tell by just feeling. If your soil's getting way too damp, whoop, there's a worm. Your soil's getting way too damp, the worms are going to have the bad environment and they're going to try to escape, and that's what everyone talks about, like worms escaping and just having all sorts of problems and stench. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Put my head down here right now. In my overall smell here right now, I gotta say, it smells like a damp soil, and I can even almost tell the paper smell. Funny part is there's a lot of food in here. When I mean by food, what I do is I go to Super One and they throw away a lot of their veggies. I take my milk jugs. Well, actually I don't have to open this up. I'll just do this. This is all, a lot of this was cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, I think there's spinach in there. There's just whatever I could get my hands on. I saw pretty decent looking greens. I blended them up. I actually just used this to feed yesterday. This is what I had left. 4 containers. I fed dang near a gallon. So that's what it looks like. That's their food. And I bury that under the soil. So under the soil, all I do when I'm gonna feed, number one, every time you feed, you should add shredded newspaper. You should add new peat moss, cocoa core. There's some other people that have different things that they like, but I use peat moss. It's pretty darn cheap. You can get it anywhere. It's cheap. You have to wash it ahead of time because it's very acidic. I have my bucket here. This is washed peat moss. I also have a sifter that I sifted out, so it gets rid of all the crud and junk that's inside of it. So you can see this is really, really nice. The worms are going to eat all of this. There's not going to be any junk left. Pretty much when I'm done, they're going to eat the whole 9 yards and I got good compost. So, that being said, that's all I do. Just dig back. Let's see if I'll dig back a little bit here. There's our food. Now, let's see if I can get the light on this. You can see all the white. The food is the big spots, but all the little spots are actually mites. Those are vegetable mites. They're not bad. They're not bad for your environment. They're not hurting nothing. Actually, they're helping you out. When you decide to harvest all this dirt, all you have to do, take all this compost, get your worms out of it, bring this dirt upstairs, put it out in the sun, make a nice thin layer, and it'll kill off any residual mites that you don't want. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting some worms. Look at there. These were all eggs. I didn't have a single live worm when I ordered this. Look at that. Here's a nice looking one. They're all running for the hills right now. So there's my food. Try to dip this again. That's the pureed veggies right there. They're going to town eating it. You can see some worms inside there. Look at them. Worms are right in there, going to town with it. They'll sit there and eat that all day long. This has only been 1 day since I put this in here. I have to say, I'm kind of surprised. They ate a lot. So you have to learn from your environment. You have to watch. Wait, you can see a lot of my worms there. Basically just like a kid. Or a puppy, however you want to say it. You watch them, you see what their needs are. You watch what these worms need. Keep your soil levels really good. You want moist, but you don't want super damp. You don't want to sit here and be like, oh, that's really wet. It's like, oh no, this is good moist soil. It's got a good content of moisture. The worms breathe with their skin. They don't have lungs, so they breathe through their skin. If you have dry soil, they will die. Keep the moistures proper, just semi-moist. Keep the worms happy. Keep the food content in check. Make sure they always have food. They love newspaper. I'm surprised. I was kind of shy about that at first, but here's my old newspaper. Shred it up. This stuff got too damp, so what I did is I buried it in the corner. I put soil over it, and then I'll add new paper out here. So this paper is pretty wet, but my environment is pretty good. I flip this paper every single time because the top side is always drier than the bottom. Now this is once a week. So really, that's all there is. This is a long scale sitting here playing with it. When I come down here and I'm actually just doing this to get it done, it's all I do is come over here, throw that back, dig a big hole, I grab my peat moss, I put a whole bunch in here, grab my gallon jug, pour that in, done with that, take all this old stuff, bury back over, put your paper back on top after you flip it over, lid on, and you're done. It probably took 30 seconds longer than that if I was actually doing it, and that's all it takes. That's done. So total, if I was doing all 8 containers, right now I'm doing 4. If I was doing all 8, it'd probably take me about 20 minutes tops to really just pay attention. If I'm in a big hurry, you could really tear through this in probably 10 minutes. As far as taking care of them, take care of your moisture levels, make sure they have food, make sure they have newspaper. It's that simple. Don't overthink it. A lot of people overthink it. It's too hard. It's really not. It's real simple. Well guys, I gotta say, I hope a lot of you will start this. That's my system. And I'm about to sign off here. I'm gonna head into my indoor grow room in my basement. I got all my basils and everything else growing. I'm about to rock and roll with doing some harvesting. I got about, £1.5 pounds of basil here I gotta harvest. Good eats, good food. RGD Systems, this is Josh signing off. Hope to talk to you guys in the future.